So I have a confession to make. I'm not a big fan of chess. And I mean that as a board game. I just don't care for the underlying gameplay of move one piece, then your opponent moves a piece. I get why it developed that way, but I find it very constraining. And there have been a lot of attempts to jazz chess up, to give it some new gameplay and make it a bit more dynamic, and I've always found that those wind up missing the point. And it's rare that they do something that actually improves chess. And that brings me to Castle Quest, Hudson's attempt to merge chess with RPG combat. This game shouldn't be confused with Castle Quest, the US version of the game Castle Excellent. That one is Castle Quest one word, this is Castle Quest 2 words. The title screen credits the development of the game to OPR. They were the name of the company that became Tomcat Systems, an equally obscure developer. They had been doing contract work for a while, and the only Famicom game that they admitted to making before this is Namco's Battle City. The story of Castle Quest is that there's a fantasy kingdom, and it's being plagued by a continual storm. The king asked his advisors how to fix it, and they said that the only way to do that would be to conquer all of the neighboring countries. To do that, you have to beat 25 stages of board gaming action. Every stage begins with 2 armies lined up. You'll have 1 king on each side. The goal on every level is to defeat the king. On your turn, you select one of your units, and then you can move it. And the movement of pieces here is a mixture of what you'd find between chess and shogi. A lot of pieces move explicitly like shogi pieces, with more freedom for moving forward and being able to back up to certain specific squares, but not from side to side. When 2 pieces come together, an RPG battle starts. The way that these work is that the attacker goes first, and on each turn you choose whether you want to attack or run away. If you choose to run away, whether or not it's successful is random, but if you fail you attack anyways. When you're attacking, the game quickly cycles through a hand of cards, and your goal is to match or beat the other character's defense number. Succeed and you do some damage, although the damage is randomized and it's not related to the cards. Also, if you draw a face card, then you get to take another turn. The attacker has a slight advantage as they get +1 to their attack. And that's the way combat works. It just goes back and forth trading blows forever. It makes encounters very swingy. If you manage to defeat the enemy, then you recover about 1/3 of your health. And so overall, there's a pretty good advantage to being the aggressor in Castle Quest. Defeating an enemy in combat adds a tombstone to the castle wall, and if that line fills up, then the arena shrinks a little bit, pushing anyone who is on that back row ahead. But combat isn't the only way to damage enemies. After you move, your characters can cast spells. They have a certain number of magic points available to them, and every spell costs 1 of those points. The skeletons and mages can cast groups of enemies without ever getting into combat, and if you defeat an enemy like that, they stay on the field in a coffin, available for resurrection by a friendly spellcaster. The queen and the clerics can cast healing spells, recovering the health of an entire crowd of your pieces. The beginning positions for all of the pieces have stars underneath them. Your pieces have 2 stars, your opponent pieces have 1 star. If one of your pieces, except the king or queen, lands on one of those 1-star squares, then they'll upgrade, and that makes them a bit stronger and heals them to full. So it's yet another way that being aggressive really pays off in this game. The best strategies are to attack with magic, then follow up physically, and then keep following up. Between the health you recover by defeating enemies, and the health that you recover when you upgrade, you can do a lot of damage with just 1 unit. Besides the story campaign, you can choose to play any of the levels against the computer or against another human, and there's a level editor letting you set up your own stages, although you are constrained to the dimensions of an existing board. The early stages of the story mode aren't too bad. You're given a lot of spellcasters when the enemy has very few, and the levels are mainly there so that you can learn what the units do, see how their movement works, and get a feel for their spells. But as the game goes on, it requires a lot of luck just to be able to get through a stage. The later stages aren't something that you can complete with skill alone. In Japan, Castle Quest seems to be remembered as that weird shogi-like RPG thing. That's not an exact quote, just more of an impression. It has a small fan following to this day. The game was also ported to the Game Boy, and it got a European release, so there is an English version of this out there. As for myself, well, I don't think adding a big pile of randomness to chess or shogi improves the games. In fact, the RPG elements and the huge random swings you can get kind of undermine the concept of positional play. It's really not a game for me.